Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Between now and August 10th, if you use this promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing where 4 winners will each win one of the Commander 2018 pre-constructed decks. See the description below for more details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and it's that time of the week again where we round up the results from the big tournaments. And this past weekend, there was none bigger than the Star City Games Open, Worcester, Massachusetts. Not only was this a huge tournament that included Standard, Modern, and Legacy, but we also got to see Star City Games Classic tournaments running those 3 formats as well this weekend, so a lot to talk about. Now, of course, this was also the release weekend for Core Set 2019. So throughout this video, we're going to have a special emphasis on the cards from that set that played a role in the weekend. Quickly before we get started, just a fast reminder, you heard at the top of the video, but we are running a promotion with Flipside Gaming. If you check out the description below, you can see the details as to how you might be able to win one of the 4 Commander 2018 decks when they are released on August 10th. And also, you'll find our Patreon page linked down there, as well as links to products on Amazon. Those are all ways to help support the channel if you're inclined, but no matter what, whether you look at those links or not, thank you for being a viewer and thank you for helping this channel grow. So with that being said, let's get into it. And we're going to begin with Standard. First, looking at the team event. Now remember, whenever we talk about team events, it is very possible that the other 2 decks that we're not showing could prop up a weaker deck into the top 8. So this doesn't necessarily mean these are the best decks in Standard week 1. However, this is a large event, and they did perform generally pretty well to get here. So if you look at the top 8 here, you're going to say to yourself, okay, nothing too surprising. I mean, Red-Black Aggro came in first, second, as well as 4th. Blue-White Control showed up in 3rd and 6th place. 5th place, we got Grixis Midrange. 7th place, Blue-White Gift. And 8th place, Mono-Green Aggro. So a lot of the deck lists you're pretty used to, but there is some influence here from the new cards. So let's take a closer look, starting with that Red-Black Aggro deck that came in first place. Here's the deck list, and one thing you'll notice, nothing too surprising here, right? A lot of the cards you're very familiar with. This has been a very dominant deck for a number of months now. However, I just want to point out, if you check out the sideboard, you just see one of the new cards, and that's Banefire. Just a one of in this version. I've seen some not running it. I saw a few versions running 2 of them out of the board. Not too surprising, though. We kind of thought this would creep into decks like this to help deal with some control matchups, and it looks like that's at least being tested out now. Coming in 3rd place, we got a Blue-White Control deck. Nothing new here. This is the deck you're very used to seeing. This particular version was the Teferi Win Condition one, which there are variants of this deck that have had varying success over the course of the last few months. This one tends to still be the most popular, though, it seems. Grixis Midrange coming in 5th. Now, this is a deck that I thought would definitely get a push thanks to Core Set 2019. And even though there's only one in the top 8 here, you're going to notice once we get to the Star City Games Classic that this deck will show up again, so stay tuned. What we've been talking about over the last couple weeks does appear to be happening with this deck. Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, really giving this type of build a push. And there's 3 copies in the main in this particular build, and that seems to be average when you look at these Grixis mid-range builds. Also, the Scarab God, of course, playing a large role, and that's one of those cards that started to build momentum again at the end of the last meta. You throw that in with Nicol Bolas, and it just feels that much better. Now, what else is going on? Of course, we mentioned Nicol Bolas in the main. We also have Banefire showing up in the sideboard again. All right, let's look at that gift deck. Nothing new here. It's the gift deck you're probably used to. What's funny about this deck, though, is for a long time, it didn't even encompass any Dominaria cards. Like, for the most part, this is the old school gift deck from a number of months back. But at least in this version, you actually do get some Dominaria cards in the sideboard with a copy of Seal Away, Lyra Dawnbringer, and Teferi. And the last deck list we'll look at from this tournament is the Mono Green Aggro build. Again, nothing too surprising here, although there are some new cards to look at. You're going to notice Thorn Lieutenant in the main. That's actually kind of awesome. And out of the sideboard of this particular build, we got Vivian Reed as well as Vinemare. Alright, this is the top 8 deck list for the Star City Games Classic Standard event. And as you can see here, there are still Red-Black Aggro decks running around, but Grixis Midrange definitely has a bigger impact. Coming in first, though, was Mono Green Aggro. Second, we got Grixis Midrange. That also came in 5th and 7th. 3rd place and 4th place was Red-Black Aggro. 6th place, Red-Green Monsters, which is kind of a variant in some ways to the Mono Green Aggro, but does play very different with the inclusion of red. And then finally in 8th place, we got a control build, but it's Esper control. So when you compare this to the previous team event, team events do tend to be a little more conservative when it comes to new cards on week 1 because they know other people are relying on them. They don't want to take as many risks. Here in the classic event, you did see people taking more risks with new cards. All right, let's look at that mono green aggro deck that came in first place. I know we already looked at one of these builds, but the reason I wanted to point this one out in addition was because this one was slightly different. And the difference is they were running the Vine Mares in the main. So they were right there at the beginning, which I thought was pretty interesting. Thorn Lieutenant's still here too. Out of the sideboard, you'll still find Vivian Reed. All right, next deck, we haven't looked at a red-green monsters deck yet. So let's look at this one that came in 6th place. And as you can see, there's some similarities between the green deck, but some big differences as well. One of the things I did want to point out, though, Banefire making it to the main deck here. And out of the sideboard, we get Vivian Reed again, as well as Vinemare. 8th place, Esper Control. Now, of course, we looked at the Azorius Control deck a few moments ago, which was the more prevalent deck in the previous meta. I was curious to see if Esper Control could get a push by a couple of the new cards, and those cards are in this deck list. We'll have to see what happens in the coming weeks. The first one is a Cleansing Nova, 1 copy in this deck list in the main. And in the sideboard, 1 copy of Chromium the Mutable. Couple other decks I wanted to show you that didn't make the top 8, but I thought they were cool. 10th place, we got a white-black Knights deck. I really like the Knights deck. It didn't quite take off in the last meta, but it definitely has a chance of being stronger this time around. As you can see by the deck list, not a lot of big changes, but a major one. 3 copies of Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants in the main. Out of the sideboard, Shieldmare and Plaguemare. And the last deck I wanted to show you from this event was Grixis Dragons coming in 11th place. Coming into this weekend, there was a lot of buzz around Dragon decks. Not only Grixis, but people were trying Naya. There were even dragons being splashed into some of the former mono red decks. So there was a lot happening. This is the deck out of all those that appeared to perform the best over the weekend, at least so far. And as you can see, this deck has the biggest influence from all the decks we're going to look at today from the core set 2019. Right there in the main deck, you see a number of big cards, including Sarkhan Fireblood, of course, Nugobolas the Ravager back again, even a couple copies of Demanding Dragon. One of the questions was, is Demanding Dragon good enough to run in a format where you already have Glorybringer? Well, I guess it is good enough when you're already running 4 Glorybringers. Why not throw a couple of these in too? And in the sideboard, Spitflame even made an appearance, which is pretty sweet. All right, let's move on to the world of Modern, and we're going to start off by looking at the results of the team events, and these were the Modern decks from the top 8 teams. Modern has been very diverse, very healthy format. You are seeing 3 copies of Jeskai Control in this top 8. I don't think it's anything to panic about, though. That came in 1st, 6th, and 7th this time. 2nd place, we got a Blue-Red Gift Storm deck. 3rd place, Hollow One. 4th place, Bant Spirits. More on that in a moment. 5th place, Burn. And 8th place, Affinity. So there's still a lot of diversity, even though Jeskai, yes, Jeskai Control is getting a little stronger thanks to Teferi. One deck I wanted to highlight here was Bant Spirits, which came in 4th place. With Supreme Phantom entering the format now, I really felt like this deck could go from good to great, and this is maybe just the first step of that. We'll have to see what happens in coming weeks. But yes, this was running 4 copies of Supreme Phantom. Definitely felt like it gave this deck a nice boost. Okay, here's the Modern Classic top 8, and it's a lot more diversity here, even compared to the team event. 1st place, Green-White Hexproof. 2nd place, Grixis Death Shadow. 3rd place, Pure Steel Combo. 4th, Eldrazi Tron. 5th, Dredge. 6th, Affinity. 7th, Blue-White Control. And 8th, Ironworks Combo. So a whole bunch of different things here, which is awesome to see. One deck to highlight, though, that 1st place Boggles deck, Green-White Hexproof. And I just wanted to show you 4 copies of Daybreak Chaplain in the main deck. I didn't see that one coming. I think that's actually kind of sweet. Okay, let's move on to Legacy with the top 8 decks from the team event first. Now, not only is there a little bit of influence from core set, but also we just had the changes to the banned and restricted list, and the format lost Deathrite Shaman as well as Gataxian Probe. In the wake of those bannings, there was some speculation that certain decks would get stronger. One of those was Death and Taxes, which you do see here. Another one was Goblins, which we're going to see in the Classic event in just a few moments. So it does appear that maybe that is happening to some degree. But let's look at these top 8 decks. First, we have Storm, piloted by Bryant Cook. If you've never seen him play Storm on stream, check it out. He's been playing for years. He's a master at that deck. It's really fun to watch. 2nd place, we saw Teamer Delver. That also came in 8th. 3rd place, Grixis Delver. 4th place, Sneak and Show, which also came in 7th place. 5th place, Death and Taxes. And 6th place, Miracles. So sure, there's 3 different Delver decks, even though they are slightly different. and you have a couple sneaking shows, but all in all, I do think there's still a lot of diversity going on in the format, which is good to see. Let's quickly look at that Death and Taxes build that came in 5th place. One thing I wanted to point out first was Breitling seeing play, 2 in the main, 1 in the side in this particular build, and that seems to be relatively consistent across the board with this deck now. It does appear that it's the real deal. We were talking a little bit about that over the weekend in the Market Watch, kind of speculating, is this card going to see play going forward, or is it people thinking that it might see play? Well, so far so good anyway when it comes to the amount of play that it has seen so far. Secondly, we have a core set card to look at in the main here, and that card is Remorseful Cleric. A couple copies. Actually makes sense in this deck. I didn't really think about it offhand, honestly. But now that I'm looking at it, yeah, 2/1 flyer for 2, it puts pressure on the opponent, pressure on planeswalkers, and at the same time can be a main deckable way to deal with some graveyard shenanigans. Pretty sweet. Our last tournament we'll look at is the Legacy Classic. First place, Eldrazi Post. Second, Blue-White Stoneblade. Third, Temur Delver. Fourth, Goblins. Fifth, Turbo Depths. Sixth, Jeskai Stoneblade. Seventh, Black-Red Reanimator. And eighth, Grixis Death's Shadow. So a lot of diversity again here. Couple decks I want to point out though. The first one being Goblins. And again, this is another one we talked about in the Market Watch this last weekend. Goblin Lackey actually had a big spike this week, and you see 4 copies of that in the deck. But one thing that surprised me just a little bit maybe was the fact that Goblin Trashmaster made it in here as a 1-of. That's actually kind of cool. And also Alpine Moon out of the sideboard as a 1-of. Grixis Death Shadow came in 8th place here. But look who's hiding in that sideboard. Just 1 copy, but he's hiding in there, peeking out at you. It's Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. Wow, Legacy play really well. We'll have to kind of see if that holds, right? Probably players were just trying this out this week. And that's the thing you got to remember. All the results from this first week, some of this is just trial and error. Next week, some of these cards might disappear and new cards could come in. The quantities could change. Whether they're main or sideboard could change. This is the time where everyone's trying to figure this stuff out. But at least for week 1, this is what we got. But I hope that helps you. Until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.